You're listening to REIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out REIARadio.com.
Part of this whole journey was, gosh, we're behind. But, again, to God be the glory, because timing is everything. Who knew that we would, be 2 years behind in training because of all the movement, be able to buy a house at the bottom of the market, be able to sell a house at the top of the market, and catch up all in 1 year. Like, that's crazy. There's no way that we could have planned it or mapped it out on paper. It just was literally a blessing.
Welcome to REIA Radio, episode 218 with Nikki Klugh.
Nikki, how does one become San Diego Woman of the Year?
Oh, wow.
This sounds like a gigantic honor. And I'm like, I don't know anything about Nikki really at all. And Ted texted me one thing and it said 2023 San Diego Woman of the Year. And I was like, okay, I guess we can kick off with that. That is a large topic.
I knew that was a perfect kickoff.
Perfect. Yeah.
Wow.
So what?
I don't
You're
know,
blushing.
Because let me clean this up. That was a nomination for Woman of the Year.
Okay.
So I did not win.
Oh, all right. Well,
however, everyone that's there is honored, and a group of entrepreneurs, women in business, cheering for each other, rooting for each other, and so someone nominated me.
Oh, did you ever feel like doing the Tanya Harding thing and just going and like hamstring in the winner?
Again, very cooperative.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Collaboration over competition, and it was about women supporting women. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many nominees were there?
Oh gosh, 10.
10 out of, I have no, 3 million people in San Diego?
I mean,
4?
a large city.
Yeah.
Have you ever been nominated for Man of the Year in Omaha, which is
never
half the size?
Nothing.
Me either. So there you go.
But tell us why. Why did that happen? And you're also living in Omaha, right, for the last 5 years. So how did that work?
Right, because I'm the type of person I learn in community. And so if I'm learning something new, which is how we got connected, I want to do it in a group because I don't want to learn all these hard lessons myself. Like, I want to learn from what you did and how you grew from that. And so I'm always the type of person that if it's not existing, I create it, And at that time, back in San Diego, when I was first starting my interior design group, there weren't many people talking about, best practices and this is how you do this. And so I found different women in the community that were like-minded, and I brought us all together, and I started a small networking group. We called ourselves SOAR, and we'd meet once a month. And then I started another group. And so I'm a connector. I love people.
Yeah.
I love growing and learning together. And so I think others feel supported and thankful and grateful that I'm the one to take the first step and, get my nose beat up a little bit in forming these groups so that we can all grow together.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And I think, what you just said really resonates with both Ted and I, in that we've, both started our own meetups, and we've kind of looked and seen a gap in providing stuff that people really want in the market, and not necessarily with a profit angle, right? It's more building community and building connections and seeing it take a life of its own. Mm-hmm. What was the result, I guess, of starting that group, and how did it grow? And you fostered it and released it to the world. What did that look like from beginning to where it is now?
Yeah, one of those two groups still meets today, even though I've been gone for 5 years. And so, again, just goodwill, it's like the go-giver, right?
Yeah.
You give not knowing when it's going to come back, how it's going to come back, but just being a good person and the energy that you put in the world, it always comes back.
Yeah. I always like to make the analogy of being kind of like Johnny Appleseed with goodwill, and also with offers, making offers on properties. Just sprinkle them around and see what grows out of it. And then you care and nurture for the thing that comes out of it. And then it may take a life of its own, and you can step away and say, I created that. I'm not necessarily guiding it now, but it's, that is honestly one of the most satisfying things I think about starting a group, is just seeing the ecosystem that happens organically out of it and watching it take shape and take hold, and just watching the people grow and connect, and like that's so cool.
Right?
Yeah, it's yeah, and that's like Ted, you've not even arguably, I mean, you've created one of the largest meetups in any industry in the state of Nebraska, if not the largest. You give the Heisman to any kudos that come out of that. So I just want to give you some love, buddy. You've done a good job about building community in that, and that is why Nikki is sitting here right now, because you started a luncheon that she happened to attend because she was like, hey, there's nothing going on in real estate, and she happened to find you by searching around Facebook.
There was a gentleman that came to the last real estate meetup, and his name was John Wayanopa. And John started our REIA group in 2007, and he hasn't been back since like 2010, maybe.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, by the way, Owen was in our very first meeting at the restaurant. and so anyway, long story short, he's like, he was just so excited to see what this grown to, because it's now gone through 3 people's hands. Yeah. And I remember just how he was literally glowing, which that's right where my mind went when you guys brought that up. You know, you said you saw your group grow,
right?
And I was like, I would love to be him right now, to walk in and say, hey, I started this, and look what this has become.
It's like having and raising a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
It takes its own personality, they take their own personality traits on over time and develop relationships and everything else. And you can just kind of sit back and be like, man, I did that. Or like, I was involved in that and I had a big part in it, but now you can just kind of let it go. And yeah, that's so cool.
And it's really beautiful to see the deals that come out of these connections that happen because of you. You know, the amount of money that people have made.
Oh man,
of the nurturing that you guys do.
I never really think about that side of it.
That's
to be honest with
big.
you.
That's impact, right?
Yeah.
That's bigger than just, we're meeting up, we're having fun, we're making money. But the lives that you change and the way that you're able to give people information and knowledge and growth, I mean, that's really, you should measure that. You really should.
How do you measure that?
Well, so there are a couple of things. So one of the deals that we saw coming about involved a startup company. And so you can say, this is what they sold it for, right? And so with you, it could be a matter of just a Google form where you collect data to say, hey, since you joined our group, how many properties have you bought and sold? How much income have you, how many doors do you have now? Like, that is the measure of how you're affecting people's lives. And yes, it feels good all along the way.
I really like that. We should do that.
We did a Survey Monkey, I think it was like 3 years ago. We sent that out, and it's like trying to figure out how many doors our group owned.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think we had about 250, 275 properties. And the form came back that we had roughly about 30,000 rental units represented in the group.
Wow.
And now we have about 450 members. So I wonder where we're at now.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. You should redo that. Yeah. That's awesome. But this begs the question, like, you went from San Diego to Omaha, what, like most people do. What, like,
never.
How did that happen? What was the connection to Omaha? How did you
literally
land
came
here?
Kicking and screaming.
Did you?
I did. But this was just a tiny little thing. I have Raynaud syndrome, which means like my capillaries react weirdly to cold. And so when my husband was retiring from the Navy in 2020, and we looked at our list of places where we would like to go and what job offers were out there, Omaha was not on the list.
Shocker.
But he was pursued for over a year. And it was like, okay, well, we can give anything a try for 2 years, right? We're a military family. We're used to this. And I'll just stay layered up. And if it gets too bad, I'll go, spend time with my mom in Houston, Texas. So I did come not knowing if we would stay, but I was willing to give it a chance.
It seems like we've interviewed several people that are like, we're like, how'd you end up in Omaha? And they're like, man, we came, the weather was awesome. And, it happened to be like the day when we have awesome weather during the year. Was it?
Which happens. I mean, it's beautiful there, right?
Yeah, today is going to be top 10. Like, Bill Ranby, our local weathercaster's like, get outside. If you're inside today, you're a loser, basically. Play hooky.
As we say here in the podcast.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, it's only 10. It's a little chilly outside. Sorry about that.
We'll get there.
But okay, so your husband is ex-military, right? He was in for quite a while.
He
was
started off as E1 in the Marine Corps, a tanker. And his sergeant was like, you're a smart guy. You're too smart to be a Marine. So he, suggested he go to the Naval Academy. That's where we met. I left. He stayed. And then he became a doctor. And
he became a doctor?
He became a doctor.
Okay.
And then a surgeon, and did his payback time, which was 12 years in San Diego, California. And then he retired with 32 years of service.
Now, did you have to... we've had several current or ex-military folks on the podcast. So you didn't have to move much
because of his specialty.
Okay, so
that was why.
Got it.
So it's training program.
Yeah,
we've lived
career student.
We've lived 4 different places before here, and then it was payback time. And so because he's a surgeon, he's a pediatric neurosurgeon, they kept him in San Diego, at the Balboa, because there's only 2 places, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, maybe one other, but limited options. And so they just kind of keep you in the same place.
Well, like Leslie Koenig.
Koenig,
sorry, is also a surgeon in San Diego.
She was
Navy.
a surgeon?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
So she worked in the ER.
Yeah, she's badass.
Yeah. And so, same area.
Yeah.
Now, I forgot to ask this, but did you grow up in San Diego? Are you a California gal?
No, I'm from Houston, Texas. And so we met at the academy. He's from Columbia, South Carolina.
Beautiful. My niece went to college there.
Yes, very lovely. And because I'm from Houston, when he got accepted to Baylor College of Medicine for medical school, I was like, oh, no brainer. That's where we're going. And we had 3 of our 4 sons there in Houston with family support. It was an awesome situation. But then we moved to Maryland, and then we moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then Palo Alto, California.
Okay.
At Stanford, yep. And then down to San Diego. But it was Palo Alto where that seed was planted about real estate. So I think that's a good area to kind of open up a little bit.
What happened in Palo Alto?
So we were living in Palo Alto, California, had to be within 10 minutes of Stanford because of the residency program. And our neighbor, he made a comment. And he was like, you're a doctor. You'll make good money one day. He's like, but that's a time trade. And he was like, I'm more into commercial real estate. And I had no clue. Like, I didn't know. I mean, we were in our...
You're like, bro, my husband's a doctor. 30s. Okay, chill out.
Right. He had this air about him, right?
Yeah.
And he's a stay-at-home dad. His wife was a teacher. But his whole thing was all about acquiring this commercial portfolio. And it just planted a seed. And I really didn't even think much more about it other than time trade. He's like, you have to work to make money. So that planted the seed, and it was years later until we actually were able to do anything about it. But it was with the help of a financial advisor that we saw the opportunity because of what I do and because of the higher income that my husband has in protecting, income and assets. And she developed this plan for us, and that's how we got into real estate investing. Okay,
we did the obligatory homage to your husband. Now let's talk about Nikki. What do you do? Take us maybe through the progression. The seed was planted. What were you doing at the time when you heard that little nugget from the neighbor?
Right. I was just starting my interior design career at that point. Yep. This was back in 2003, 2004. And I got my interior design degree after being a stay-at-home mom for many years. And so I'm an interior designer and have grown into remodeling whole homes and working on my contractor's license now, my general contractor's license, so that I can do the work, all in one design build. It was one point where one of my contractors, we employed him essentially for 3 years straight because of our projects. He would do one project at a time. I was like, hey, I should like, this should be in-house. Like, how can we make that happen? So have grown into remodeling and wanting to dovetail all these things together, like make them all work together.
Yeah. Well, okay. This is a generalization, but like dudes are not generally great at interior design.
Right.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
Yeah. So did you always have a knack for design? Like when you were growing up as a kid, were you kind of like, experimenting with different things and then just you found out you're really good at it and enjoyed it?
Yeah. My mom and I would decorate all weekend like that. We were weekend warriors. And so before that was even a thing. And she went to school for fashion design, but then ended up, working in the oil and gas industry because of Houston, Texas, right? So that was our playtime. That was our fun time on the weekend. So I've always been really good at it, rearranging my little tiny room and finding the most use of the space. And then when she converted the garage to another living space, she's like, hey, Nikki, help me with this floor plan. So like I've always done that. It wasn't until our youngest son was born, I was like, I've got to get out of this house. These 4 sons are driving me batty.
Oh man, yes, I can't imagine.
I was doing it more so for pleasure as a hobby, but then it just grew and it turned into something that was valuable to other people as well. So my business took off more like 2011, 12 is when I really started getting serious about learning the 4 pillars of business. So, and that's when I started these groups like, okay, how do we do this? What do we do? What am I missing? What's the information and the knowledge that I don't have so that I can run a real business?
Now, were the groups that you brought up originally here and just referenced, were they specific to like interior design, construction, anything? What were those?
One was an interior design group, and it was like, okay, how are you doing this? What are you doing? And
knowledge share type of setup. Yep.
And someone there told me my best leads come from real estate agents. Now, this is important because I started going to these realtor meetups in San Diego, and they did, after 2 years, become my best referral, sources. But in that time, that's when I started hearing the jargon of real estate, and I started understanding pocket deals. Not understanding, but like just knowing that they
You knew
exist.
the lingo.
Yeah. So that made me a lot more comfortable when it came time to invest.
Now, I would think, being a recovering house flipper, that I struggle a lot of time. I actually brought this up just yesterday in my coffee meetup. And when gray and white kind of went out of style, I don't know what to do now. Like, I'm kind of lost when it comes to like what I can do. Because before, I mean, and by the way, gray and white are immortal. It seemed like
gray and white are out of style right now
for like 10 years. I mean, they had a really good run. So I guess, what do you consume for content or information that helps you keep on top of what are the latest design, hot things that are useful for people when they're designing a home?
Right. So there are some reports that come out, there's the Pantone color of the year, and I'm just so client centric that I'm not a trendy type of designer. Like, we're typically designing for people that it's a life change and it might be their forever home or their next to forever home. And so we really are looking for longevity in our design, something that's going to stand the test of time. So it really depends on the mood that they want to create. And that's how I drive my color choices.
Now, okay, so
what about for rental houses? Like, that's a little bit different of a game.
True.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts and feedback on that? If somebody knows it's going to be a rental, they're going to have to repaint it every year.
Right. So we're going more towards a softer taupe, like a grayish is what they're calling it.
So a little warmth
warmer of the gray.
Okay. And now, this is always kind of fascinating to me. We did a kitchen and kind of living room remodel, fireplace remodel about 2-3 years ago. And it sucked, by the way, because we were living there, right? So we had to move everything to the basement, couldn't use our kitchen, all that. Like, it kind of sucked. But we brought in a design group, and they picked out all the furnishings and like, our furniture and pillows and like wall hangings and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, thank God. Because my wife is really good at knowing what she does not want, but she can't tell you what she wants until she sees it. Yeah. So it's, for me, I'm just kind of like, I'll take that. Yeah. And let's do that one. And then a lot of times it works out. A lot of times, or, I would say 33% of the time I'm like, oh man, that was bad. That was a bad call, but I'm too late. It's too late now. It's already on the walls or whatever. Yeah. What is the right time for someone to engage an interior designer? Let's say, and let's do two facets of this. One is I'm going to be building a house, and one is I'm buying or I bought a house and I want help.
Right.
When is the right time to call you or engage with you?
So you're building a house. You want to engage an interior designer right away.
Okay. Is that like, okay, I'm under contract with a builder. I've got my financing lined up.
Right.
Help.
So not all interior designers work this way, but I'm very concerned with traffic flow, how the family functions, the interactions that happen, like your patterns, right? So you need to understand that, because if you're doing something custom, it should be custom to you, right? And how you operate as a family. And if you're building, what a better time to start thinking about those things. Now, the architect may or may not think about that. The builder certainly isn't. But an interior designer that is, all about making your home feel like your sanctuary will. And so thinking about the layout, the floor plan, the rooms, how the furniture is going to sit in the rooms, that's all very important in the beginning, because that's going to inform, how the space is built out. Now, then we're talking about architectural details and style and furnishings. Those all should go together. Again, if you're doing custom, this is the opportunity to make that happen. So you want your interior designer to be part of the team from the very beginning.
Okay. Now, do you interface directly with the builder in collaboration with the homeowner, or is that that strictly just with the homeowner and then they communicate what you told them, or how does that all work together?
We work together as a team.
Okay.
So the builder may or may not be involved right at the beginning, or it may be someone on their team that's drawing out the plans, but it's the architect and the homeowner and the designer that'll collaborate and talk about these things together.
Okay. Now I would assume, like, I have a house that has a walkout basement and we live on a lake.
Okay.
Ted, your house is, how would you describe yours?
It's a 98 build.
And
It's a
ranch
it's
style?
It's a two-story.
Two-story.
Yeah.
And you have a basement?
Unfinished.
Okay. So it's not a walkout, correct?
It isn't, but it should be.
Now, okay, and this is good actually, because like these are two distinctly different types of house. I have a ranch and it's got a finished basement with a walkout, lake living, that's kind of the vibe.
Yeah.
So you would take that information and say, okay, now tell me if I'm wrong here. I'm going to say, if I'm you, I'm going to be like, where are they spending a lot of time? So it's a lot of times living rooms and kitchens, right? Or a lot of it. But if somebody is using their basement a bunch and they're downstairs, you like, what do you do with that info?
Right. So we would talk about, how you approach the house. Are you coming into the garage and going straight into the house? Are you coming out through the front door? Are you having parties where that's the traffic flow for people? Like if you're having parties out by the lake, are people walking around the house or are they walking through the house?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we think about those kind of things. And so where we prioritize material selection, pathways, like how wide those traffic, patterns are. And so we want to consider how you use the home so that we make the right adjustments.
And you want to get bang for your buck in the places that people that are going to make an impact, I would assume. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, this is why my mind doesn't work this way. Like, I'm just like, yeah, we live on a lake, we have a ranch. Like, what else do you need to know? And you're kind of like, yeah, where are people coming in? I'm like, I wouldn't have even thought of that, but that makes a ton of sense, because you want kind of a little bit of a wow factor, I would assume, like right when you're entering the most common space in the house, and then where you're congregating. Right. And, making it usable, functional, but at the same time, like stylish and all those things. And
as you're saying your goodbyes and kissing babies, like, where are you hanging out? Is it in the, entry inside? Is your party going into the night, or are they coming back around outside and hanging out in the driveway to say their goodbyes? It's things like that.
Here's how I grew up. My family, right? We're all like, okay, yep, we're running late. All right, good to see you. We'll see you next time. Hug, see you later. And you're gone, right? My wife's family, we call it the farewell tour. So, and my father-in-law, these are Southwest Iowa people, right? And my father-in-law, he gets so irritated because he's kind of like, I grew up that way. So I'm kind of like, like, let's go. Like, we're running late. I have stuff to do, blah, blah, blah. And then, my mother-in-law, God bless her, she's just like, she will talk and talk and talk. And then the thing that kills me about this whole thing is, like, we'll get done with a big family gathering. There'll be like 20 of us there, and we've talked all day long. And I'm like, I'm outgoing, but I'm done. Like, I'm exhausted. I'm all my words are gone. And I'm like, all right, see you guys. Yeah. And then they will start a huge conversation topic in the driveway. So it's generally, we all talk in the living room. Everybody agrees that they're going to leave. And then they congregate in the like entryway of our door. And then there's more conversations. They get outside and they're pausing on the sidewalk to have more conversations. And then when they get by their cars, that's when the real conversations happen. Oh my God. They're like, what do you think about politics? Or what, you know what I mean? It's just like, I'm like, what are you guys doing? We had literally 8 hours to talk about this stuff. And anyway, so it's funny, but that's really insightful, because I would not have even thought of those things, but those are extremely important with your design choices and where you place them. A lot
of exterior lighting. Right?
Yeah. And then, exactly. Yes, exactly. For the 3 hours it takes to get them out the door. Yeah. But
so what about like plans as far as like, I have this vision for remodeling our house right now, and like we have this sitting room that never gets used.
Okay.
It's maybe been used 1% of the whole entire time we live in the home. And then it goes into the dining room that we only sit in when we have people over.
Formal dining rooms never get used.
Yeah. And so I'm like, my mentality is like, okay, so then there's this kitchen. I'm like, let's take the wall out between the two. Let's double the size of the kitchen into the dining room.
For sure.
And then let's move that dining room more into where the sitting room is. And then all of a sudden that whole room's utilized and creates a lot more flow. And I'm trying to explain to my wife, I'm like, yeah, but we're going to have to move the kitchen over and stuff, but the basement's unfinished. So it's really easy to move plumbing.
Yeah.
And of course, she's just like, her jaw drops, and she's like, no, that sounds ridiculous. I'm like, no, we remodel houses all the time. This is not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm trying to explain this, but I need to like go have it like designed so she can physically see the layout and what I want. And I need it a little bit too, because if it's up to me, I put a little hibachi in so I could throw some shrimp in the house.
You got a bourbon shelf over on the corner.
I have that already though, but that's where the sink's going to go.
Yeah. We love doing the unconventional use of space, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're paying for this space that you never use. So we've done offices in the front room that, maybe it was a dining room. We've done pool rooms. We've done playrooms. There's lots of uses.
What's weird too is when you're a real estate investor and you're used to buying deals and doing stuff to them and then either selling them or keeping them or whatever. And then when it's your own house, it's so different.
Yeah.
Because, I kid you not, we went to probably, I'm going to guess, at least a dozen. It seemed like way more than that, but granite stores. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it was to the point where it was like, okay, I don't
the
really
same
like
rock as at every place.
I don't really, yes, exactly. But it's like, I don't like how the veining and this piece of granite that we have. And what about this? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I can't deal. Yeah. Because normally you make decisions on flips or, rental houses and just like boom, 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 boom.
Imagine being an interior designer designing for yourself. Oh my God. That was weird.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. That would be hard.
I did that 2 years ago.
But I bet your house looks amazing.
Well, it's getting there. It's getting there. I love my kitchen and my bathroom. That's where we started. And so other rooms are in queue. My husband's shoe closet. Ooh, that's something to die for. He's a shoe junkie. That's his
I just bought 4 pairs of shoes yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and I have like 6 pockets where I can stick my shoes. Mm-hmm. I have like the miniature walk-in dude closet. Like that's all. So I'm constantly like, well, I guess I have to throw some clothes away or donate them because like I got no room.
Are most important.
Yeah.
Have you ever counted them?
Yeah.
How many shoes do you have?
It's not me. It's him.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I counted my wife's pairs of shoes. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna write the number here and let you, and then you guys can tell me what your numbers are.
Okay.
So
exactly.
Yeah, because I just made fun of her the other day for this.
Okay, Nikki, you guess first.
Guess your wife's number.
No. How many? Do you know how many pairs?
My husband owns over 200 pairs of shoes.
Oh my God! I thought you would say something great. To me, in my mind, for a dude, a crazy amount of shoes is like 30. Right. Like that is a lot.
Yeah.
200? Does he have like a wall?
So he has like these Jordans, and as I was, getting all of his shoes, we had these custom built-in shoe cabinets, right? That are lit. And
okay. Again, so he's really into shoes
for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these are 6 pairs of Jordans, but they're all the same. Like he's like, no, the laces are different on that one. I'm like, you can change
stitch. There's an extra stitch on this one.
Stitches are different in that one. See this stripe? I'm like, oh my God.
Does he actually wear them all?
Yeah,
he does.
Yeah, he wears them.
Because like, imagine again, he's a surgeon, and so he scrubs, right? So he will wear a different pair of shoes almost every day, and that's his way of expressing his style.
I like that.
What happens when he scuffs one of them? Is it just like the end of the world? Is it a bad day? And he's like, I saved like 3 lives today, but do you see the scuff on my Jordans?
Yeah.
Not acceptable.
We literally built out the whole attic space above the garage, and that's now my wife's walk-in closet. Yeah. And so we have a room. It's about the size of this on one corner of the walk-in closet.
It's shoes.
And this is the shoe section.
Yeah.
And so she's only got 164 pairs when I went there. But to me, that was insane.
Nice. She has 164
I think
pairs
that might
of shoes.
be kind of good for a lady. Yeah. Like, that's not bad.
So, and I'm just like, and she's like, well, my feet don't grow. So, and then it's just
because here's the thing. It depends.
My feet don't grow. what kind of a justification reach is that?
Because you'll always be able to wear them 10 years from now.
My feet don't grow.
Because for a lady, you've got to think, like, do I need closed-toe black shoes or do I need open-toe black shoes? Does it need a sling back? Does it need a square heel or a pointed heel? So we've got a lot more considerations.
And she dresses, she's a teacher, so she dresses business casual every day. So, that's her thing.
All right, I'm going to guess. I haven't looked at your number over there, Ted. I'm going to
set it.
Oh, 164?
That was her.
Okay. Yeah. I thought that was the old number.
No, that was, the one you counted. I know there's been more. I know there's been more that's come in.
I guarantee she has secret shoes somewhere.
Yeah. There's nowhere to put
There's a shoe vault.
That is the shoe vault.
Okay. Wow, this is blowing my mind, man. I think I probably have, but these are including like crappy workout shoes or stuff that have paint all over them or whatever. I probably have 20, I would guess. And I feel like that's a lot because I still have some that I haven't thrown away yet that I really need to.
18, 20, probably about 36 to 48.
Jeez.
And I don't think
the difference is style versus utility.
Yeah.
You know,
fair.
so.
Well, I got 4 new pairs that I'm rocking here coming up in the next couple weeks. So I'm feeling pretty fresh.
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like if you go on a trip, you need a new pair of shoes, though. You know,
I do. We got a trip coming up on Sunday, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So life in Omaha. You landed here, kicking and screaming, as you put it. What was it like settling into a new place in the Midwest when you're used to living in where stuff's happening more? So
I'm going to throw another monkey wrench into this situation, and that's the fact that we moved here during COVID. So it was a really weird time. I had all these plans of how I would transition my business to a new city, and that was all crap now. Because no one was meeting, you couldn't get out.
Yeah.
You know, the one group that I had connected to and would transition to, they moved to meeting online. It's just, I'm the new girl. You know, it just doesn't land. It doesn't, you know, connect as well. So it's taken a really long time to really kind of like find my way into Omaha. But the one thing that we knew is that now that our income has been multiplied, which we always knew would happen. But I was telling you earlier that, you know, we feel like we're playing catch up now because with 4 sons living in California, like we had no savings. Like everything went to the kids, you know.
Sure.
Their education. We would do family vacations, but we knew
housing costs.
Right. Housing costs, food, you know, keeping the refrigerator full.
Yeah, four boys with
strapping
food.
boys. Yeah. And so we felt like,
how old are they now?
Oh my gosh, they're 29.
What? Oh, wow.
27, 26, and 23. So
I thought you were going to tell me like 12, 13,
no, they're all
16.
young men now. They're all grown
Yes,
sons. And a couple of them are interested in real estate. So I'm happy about that. But, you know, if you can imagine, we had 0 savings and we were like in Omaha. And so I was like, well, it doesn't matter what my business does. We've got to figure out this investing part. And so that's how I found Ted. And right away, we lived again below our means. We were used to that. And we were able to buy property right away. So it was that, you know, financial planner, again, looking at what I do, what my husband does, what's the best tax strategy, what's the best retirement plan for us. And that happened to be real estate because I improve properties every single day. I'm doing kitchens and bath remodels all the time. And so that, along with the real estate activity, can be joined together to make me a professional real estate investor. And that comes with a set of benefits that others don't get.
What did your so Ted and I both did a brief stint as financial planners, quote unquote, i.e. insurance salesmen. But I know when I had the occasion of meeting with some people that were really heavy into real estate investing, and like there was nothing I could do.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Because I could be like, okay, here's all your safety, your growth, your retirement, your kids, kids stuff, your insurance plan, all that stuff. And then I'm just picturing the financial advisor when you're in California. He's like, all right, roll up our sleeves and we're going to get you into these mutual funds and you do a blah, blah, blah. And then you're in Omaha and you're like, all right, we want to make this work and we want financial independence and whatever. And he's like, all right, I have some great ETF funds you can get into. And you're like, I'm thinking real estate. And he's like, ugh. Yeah. Throws his pen across the room. Yeah. Is all right if that's what you want to do.
Right. I get it because there's layers to it, right?
Yeah.
I kind of associate with a wedding. You have the wedding planner, the day of wedding coordinator. There's the wedding decorator. There's all these layers that have to do with the wedding. Well, you guys might not know.
No, we don't. Me and Ted.
What am I talking about?
If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the look on her face. Ted and I are like, really?
Well, it's like that with the financial world too, though, because you do need insurance. You do need these other things, but they all work together. And so Empire Capital Ventures, Amelia Thomas is who we rely on. And she's our quarterback because she's the one that manages all these things. We have life insurance. We have, what is it, when you get hurt in disability insurance, because who's going to replace that income? If
super important for doctors.
Right, exactly. So we have all those things
and
in
interior
place.
Designers.
Right. But she knows that, okay, what is a dollar saved is a dollar earned, right? You're making all this money. You got to pay all these taxes. Well, how can we reduce that? Mm-hmm. And so that's what she had worked in other bigger firms and could see all the strategies that other people were using and bring that to the table and help us with our plan.
You mentioned when you came into town that you had no connections, but you also mentioned that you have a team of people around you now. Mm-hmm. How were you able to create that team of people and also build trust so quickly in these people?
Yeah. Again, it's just being proactive. I love talking to people. I love learning about people and what their journey was. And so like you hearing things, like I had lunch with someone a couple days ago that I met, at the group, and she is the note holder. Like, I didn't even know you could make money like that. Like, I didn't know you could be a bank.
Oh, she was buying notes.
Yeah. Like she holds the note for homes. And so that gap between mortgage rates from, 3 years ago to now, that's a significant gap. And that's how she makes her money. So yeah, just learning and talking to people and seeing what's out there and what's available and what fits your skill set, what fits your personality. And so the real estate investing, again, that seed that was planted back in 2003, 2004, when Amelia mentioned this could be a way to go. And that kind of started because we're in a group together. Another group. We're in a mastermind that meets out in Atlanta 4 times a year. And I was remodeling the headquarters for the leaders of that group. They bought a 6,000 square foot building. And as I was remodeling that building for them, she is also their advisor. She told me, Nikki, you do this, this, and this. Like you draw the plans. You can gut the building and redraw the plans and pick all the materials. And I do everything. Like I act as an architect, as an interior designer, and then as a stylist. And so she's like, you're a real estate investor. Like you're improving properties on a daily basis.
You're just not getting paid like one.
We can make that work to your advantage. And so that's what we've done. And so I'm on paper for the IRS. I'm a professional real estate investor, and I'm able to, and of course it has requirements. I have to work 750 hours a year. It has to be 51% of my money generating activities. And I'm able to pull 26 years of depreciation all the way forward. And we get to count that against my husband's big W-2.
Well, you can write off 2 hours right here. So,
Right.
Only if you guys have met before you had to remodel your 6-story building downtown, right?
I know. Next one.
So this is interesting, actually, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but the 750 hour requirement, and then like to qualify as different categories of real estate investing, you have to be put in X number of hours, can't be more than this. And if you have a regular profession, they really scrutinize it if you're doing it on the side and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But here's what actually happens. And I've been audited. I do not want to go through that again. And you have as well. But what actually happens is you spend like a lot of time worrying and panicking and being like, oh man, I need to have all this stuff documented. And then when you actually get your tax return done and you send it off, and then it just goes into the void. Right. Like there's like a black hole that it goes to, and you're just waiting for your refund or how much you owe or whatever, or you're filing an extension if you're a normal real estate investor. But the funny thing is, like when I got audited, nobody said, the auditor wasn't like, okay, show me all of the hours you spent on whatever. So I guess where I'm going with this is, there's a lot of parameters that you have to operate under, but it's honestly like, it's more like being a teacher that's on duty at kids' recess during elementary school, where there's just chaos everywhere and they're going around doing wherever the hell they want. And then if the teacher's like, okay, it's like a cop that has a traffic quota and they're just like, I do not want to pull somebody else. Like, I think that's what IRS auditors are like. They're just like, okay, you kind of know what's going on. You need to operate under the rules. And then if you're in trouble, it's because I'm having a bad day and like I'm going to really dig into your stuff. Yeah. It's just, you never know when that's going to happen. It's kind of like Russian roulette when you fire off your tax return.
Document.
Yeah.
You're over-prepared.
I know, but then, sometimes I've been really tempted because I've been really diligent about keeping like really, really good records and having all my stuff digital. So it's easy to send off and like I can just share a link and you got all my stuff now.
Yep.
But then it's just like, okay, that didn't actually go to the IRS. What I just sent you, all the stuff didn't get there, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
So like, could I just not do that?
I would not recommend
I know.
it.
By the way, this is for
tempting,
entertainment.
right?
This is for entertainment value
You're like,
only.
This is senseless. This is pointless. It's like learning algebra in middle school, you know?
But I just think it's funny because I think there's a disconnect, and they, a lot of people figure, okay, I'm an IRS auditor. I get a file and I look at it and I'm like, they think that they're going to want all the stuff. Mm-hmm. And really, they just zero in on a couple of things. Okay. A lot of times, unless you're flagrantly doing something bad. But I don't know. I've just always found that funny because you worry and worry and worry and worry. And then you send it off and you're like, I have no idea what's going to happen.
But it's like insurance, right?
Yeah. But you're right.
It's not important until you need it.
You're right. Yeah.
And then you find out what mistakes you made on getting that policy.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about investing, since this is kind of a real estate investing podcast. What was your so interior design? Mm-hmm. You went from San Diego to Omaha.
Right. Your
husband was in the military, eventually became a surgeon, and you basically said, okay, we're not really set up well to retire. Yeah. We have 4 kids and we've been burning cash like a mofo in a high cost of living market. What moves did you make to start investing in real estate and kind of like eating your own cooking with design, construction, architecture, all that?
So really, really blessed in that we bought at the bottom of the market in 2008, 2009.
Okay. Yeah.
So, we rented first. We had an eye on this beautiful home. At the time, there was interest-only financing that I became aware of. And I was like, babe, we should do this. He's like, are you crazy? No, we'll never pay off that house. We can't do interest only. And then the interest rates might change when we start. Anyway, it's like, no. I was like, okay, we'll rent first. And then the crash happened. It's like, oh, it's a half price sale. Like, so the house that I loved, all of a sudden it went from, again, California prices, $1.2 million to $600,000. So we bought that house. We could afford, because that's what the calculator said from the beginning.
Yeah.
So we bought that house and we'd intended to hold on to it. We thought we would, but it just didn't work out because when COVID happened, the market went crazy. And so not only did it regain all the value to the 1.2, it went up to 1.6. So again, total blessing. Had no idea this was going to happen. But after having that house for 12 years, we were able to sell it and make $1 million. So we took that $1 million and we bought property here right away. So we bought a 15-plex and a duplex that first year.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Strong moves.
Right. So part of this whole journey was, gosh, we're behind. But, again, to God be the glory, because timing is everything. Who knew that we would, be 2 years behind in training because of all the movement, be able to buy a house at the bottom of the market, be able to sell a house at the top of the market, and catch up all in 1 year. Like, that's crazy. There's no way that we could have planned it or mapped it out on paper. It just was literally a blessing. In getting this knowledge, these seeds planted through the years, meeting Amelia, knowing, okay, we have no savings, but we need to start really thinking about it. All the delays, all of the delayed gratification, like we had built up our muscle to not, blow through money. And so we were ready. We were positioned to take that profit. We had done a refi and pull some of that value out for the kids' college, but we still could take, $500,000, buy those 2 properties and start our real estate investing journey.
I think the house I bought in 2008 for $70,000 is now worth $300,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost like California money.
I got started in 2005 and really didn't know what the hell I was doing at all. And then I didn't really start aggressively buying until the GFC. And so it was 2008, 2010, really till 2012. I was buying a house a month. Mm-hmm. And I had a rule at the time, and I was a bigger pockets guy.
Yeah.
I was following everything. And there was a guy on there that Mike from Ohio, Mike OH was his handle. And he was preaching about cash flow. Mm-hmm. Don't buy anything unless it gets 2%.
2%.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the 1% rule is what a lot of people in real estate throw around. Well, as long as rent equals 1% of the purchase price, on a monthly basis, it should pencil out and whatever. I was vigilant about being a 2% guy.
Wow.
So I underwrote every deal with 2% in mind. That's how I got started. And the funny thing about that is, like Omaha is not known as a wild appreciation market, but it really has been the last several years, with especially post-COVID.
It's a sleeper city, man.
Yeah, I mean, when the printing press went on, prices have doubled in the last 5 years on houses. And a lot of the little crappy, rentals that I bought then have like doubled in value, if not more. And I look really smart when I'm actually not, because that was all I was doing. I just was operating under the parameters I had with what I knew.
Yeah.
And I thought by strong cash flow. And now I see the power of appreciation too, but you have to have kind of a longer lens on that. This is actually really good because you bought a 15 unit and a single family. Is that what I heard you say? Duplex. Okay. So 17 units right out of the gate as your first strictly real estate investment deals, right? Yesterday I had a coffee meetup and there was a guy there, and I'm going to guess he's probably mid 40s, right? And he was working for a company that was a franchisor, and he was dealing in operations and all that. And they were going through some layoffs. And he kind of was like, man, it was kind of the time for money thing, that you were talking about earlier, where he's trading his time for money, and realized that like he literally could get laid off at any time. He had no control over his own income and family situation, all that. And he wanted to look into real estate. And he happened to go to this meetup with a friend of his that also, the funny part was the guy that the two of them that showed up, they were sitting by themselves and like not really talking to anybody at first. And then when I was picking on him when we were doing our intros and kind of dug into their story, and one of the guys got laid off, and I go, "Did you fire him?" And he's here with you. It was really funny, and then he actually played it out. But the point is, he really wanted to go into multifamily right away.
Yeah,
and that's not a common path. So maybe you could speak to your thought process, and knowing that you had kind of catch up on the back of your mind. Why do that? Why 15 plex? And like, what challenges did you encounter when you bought that deal?
Right. So again, not to beat a dead horse, but it was community that gave me the courage to do that, because we had been part of an investment club for a year. And with that investment club,
is this the Atlanta one?
The Atlanta one.
Okay.
It was out of that mastermind that we all got together and said, we could put our money together and buy some things. So through being a part of that group and seeing the process as we did buy properties, and it's not that hard. Like, it's easier to buy a commercial property than it is to buy a residential property.
I 100% agree with you on that.
And so seeing that and having our formulas, like we had the spreadsheet that we all had to, populate for deals that we brought to the table, and see the numbers play out. Like, what's the NOI? How do you explain that? Like, that it was a learning curve, right? That happened with other people's money, my money too. Like, we were all in it together, but it was less of a risk to do those deals as a group. And then I saw the process, like, okay, we can do it.
Okay, I'm going to pick on the 15 unit. I know you bought a duplex as well then, but let's talk about the 15. If you don't mind, how did you finance it? How did you buy it? Like, what did you, how did you put it all together? How did you make that deal work?
So the 15 plex, okay, let me add in the fact that Amelia said the multi-units are better because there's more toilets, there's more walls, there's more plumbing, there's more everything that can be, do the
cost segregation.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can do the cost segregation to pull all that depreciation forward, right? So that was the goal. It was to buy something that was multi-family.
And was that to offset your husband's high costs or high income?
High
So high income earner. So you had a crap ton of taxes that you were paying on a yearly basis. Yeah. Okay.
So it's to offset that. And it's like, Uncle Sam will pay you to invest for your future. So that's, when it comes out in the wash, that's what it is. I'm saving money here, and that money that I save, I can take it and roll it into more investments. So the way that the 15 plex happened, again, remember we had that California property. We're just like, with the volatility that's going on right now.
Yeah, monopoly money.
We're like, ooh, the next time the housing market crashes, we're buying again in California. Because if you can be in those high growth areas, I mean, we would just buy a condo at this point, but still, that could give us a huge return. We're just waiting for the right moment. But this rates still have not come down yet.
Yeah.
Prices still have not come down yet. I don't know if it'll happen at all because we thought it would happen during COVID, but it didn't. It went the other way. So there's just no way of knowing. It really is, again, all about timing. But if you can be prepared, so when the right time is there. So, we have this little nest egg so that if it does crash, we're ready. But the 15-plex, that was why, because of the cost segregation. That was why that was the goal. That was what we had in sight.
Don't you think that the most millionaires come out of those moments where the economy drops and people are actually prepared for taking advantage of those situations?
Yes. Yep. So, we're talking about real estate, but of course, everywhere, it's the risk. It's the ROI. The bigger you risk, the bigger you can make. But if you lose, damn.
Yeah, cuts both ways. Yeah.
So, you've got to be knowledgeable. You've got to be prepared. You've got to be ready. But yes, it's those great deltas that you're going to make money.
Yeah. So, okay, cost seg study. Who put that thought in your mind?
Amelia.
Oh, she did. Okay, so she dropped a lot of knowledge on you.
Absolutely. Worth every penny.
Okay, now let's talk reality versus perception. So you're like, yes, this makes a ton of sense. 15 units, I can buy that. We have a little bit of a nest egg. Let's go into this deal. What was it actually like when you bought it? Was it a good part of town? Was it a little bit rougher? Like
it's a good part of town. It's by the medical center. So
Midtown Omaha,
our medical center. I'm from Houston, Texas.
Yeah,
it's a real.
Yeah, you're like, Omaha. That's cute. UNMC, pat him on the head.
So I found a realtor. He had his preferred banker. They told us 20% down. They was like, okay, we can make that happen. 2 weeks before closing, they say no, 30% down.
What?
Like, what the?
Yeah.
And this is where Omaha is special. And I'm sure there's other towns like this too. But when we got to Omaha, I'm like, what high school did you go to? And I'm like, what? What are you talking
You're like,
about?
what does this matter? You're like, what are you doing?
So, but it turns out we are having dinners with new friends that we were connected through Facebook. Our friends in San Diego connected us to friends in Omaha. We were at dinner with them. We were telling them, our deal fell through. I don't know what we're going to do. And so Tyson said, hey, I know a banker. I'll connect you to Jeremy. And we went to high school together. He was like, okay, I'll talk to Jeremy. Jeremy got us closed in 11 days. It's unheard of.
Yeah.
20% down. Well, maybe it went to 25. I don't remember. It was 4 years ago, but better than the 30% down that we were not prepared for because, we were doing, we weren't prepared for that. So that was something important. It is really about connections and who you know and who you trust here in the city that can help you. So that's really, really important.
What was the, if you don't mind sharing, what was the purchase price of that 15 units?
So the 15 was 1.6.
Okay.
It was the Heimbach building that had burnt out and that Larry Jensen took and rehabbed and made it
all of it.
Yeah. He saw it on the news. He tells the story. He saw it on the news. This building burned out. He owns a construction company, which helped solidify the idea that I need to own a construction company. He saw it. He bought it within, he bought it quickly. He rehabbed it. He turned it into 15 units. And that was a valuable piece of property now. He used the TIF money to help with that, which I'm learning about and wanting to employ with other deals. And he was ready to sell it, to roll it up into something bigger and better.
Because it has TIF money, does it have like sprinkler systems and everything in it? Yeah, that's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing as you when buying it, but the curse is if you're the person taking that TIF money, because then all of a sudden the city's like they have all these expectations they want, and generally sprinklering is one of them.
Absolutely. So, but it makes it valuable, right?
It does,
and so
it makes insurance a lot cheaper too.
So that was our deal, and in that, he offered to sell us the TIF, but he didn't understand it, so he didn't buy it. But I'm kicking myself for it now. But yes, that was how we first got into that big 15-plex.
Okay. And then, so it sounds like it was mostly rehabbed, right? Like you didn't have to go in and do a ton of work. So it was kind of turnkey.
Yeah. Our first properties were all turnkey. I did not have the bandwidth. I'm running my interior design company. We're moving. I don't have connections yet. I don't know who can do drywall. I don't know who can do plumbing. So the first set of properties that we bought were all turnkey.
Okay. And so a 15 unit, a duplex. What else after that?
So after that, the next year we bought a 9-plex.
Okay.
That one was in the hood. But that one, the reason that one was so important is because it was an opportunity zone.
Okay.
Is it on Ames?
No, it's Pacific.
There's not too many 9-plexes out there.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's 2 houses next to each other.
Okay.
One's the 3-plex, the house here, and this one is the 6-plex. And yeah, it's not a proud property. Like the Heimbach is it's a B, it's a high B.
Yeah.
But this one's a C. But it's an opportunity zone. So eventually the plan is to scrape it and potentially put 18 to 24 units.
There's 2 properties in North Omaha that I've been an agent on each side.
Steelcrest?
Yeah, Steelcrest.
Oh.
I've been an agent on that one 5 times or 5 sides. And then there's one that's right down the street on our names, and it's a 6-plex, a 3-plex, and a single family all in like a corner.
Yeah.
And I've sold that one I think 3 or 4 times.
Oh, so it like has a ghost in it or something.
No, it's just I always find that there's a lot of people they kind of progress. That like, hey, in the Omaha area, it's like North Omaha homes tend to be a little bit more affordable. So they start off there, get their feet wet, understand it. And then like, oh, I'm going to buy some South Omaha now. And then they get some single families there. And then like, okay, well, I'm going to sell my whole portfolio. And now I'm ready to get some multifamilies. And generally you get your
Midtown.
Generally then they tend to move back into North Omaha because they're getting their first multifamily.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were talking about.
And I say it like this because I probably had 24 clients as a realtor go through this process, and I watched it, and it was like North Omaha, South Omaha, North Omaha, and then starting getting in like large ones whenever they could get them. It was the people that were trying to grow
Midtown and then West Omaha.
So because of that, I was consistently selling these buildings over and over and over again, and I knew them better than anybody else. I was always their best choice.
Yeah. So 15 unit duplex. 9 unit, which sounds like conversions. Were they?
It was.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you bought a 6 unit and a 3 unit on adjoining lots. And then, so what next?
So then the 22
unit. Okay.
Up 76. And that one again, decent, and we have a property manager. That one could be improved. I'd like to see that happen. But again, in these last 4 or 5 years, I've been building my contacts.
Yeah.
I've been inserting myself and learning who's good, who's not good, who I can rely on, timing, pricing, like all those things.
Does your property manager allow you to rehab your own units and take care of your own maintenance if you choose to?
So he will.
Yeah.
But this is where our sons come into place. This is where the third son is, interested, and he lives in one of the 15 units. And
how about having some eyes on the place?
Right.
I love that.
Right. And so we're working out our terms. When you work with your family, right?
Yeah.
You got to have some really clear terms and boundaries. And so we're working on that. And, our goal is to get to a place where they have their own property management company. Like, this is their land. This is their property one day. Yeah. Like, why not learn how to take care of it? So like one of your, I hate that I don't know his name.
Is that your youngest son that came to?
He was our third son.
Okay. And what was his name again?
Nicholas.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. And who's the guy that spoke at the last meeting?
Was that Wyatt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wyatt. He spoke a couple of times.
He was just here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Wyatt, similar journey, and that grew fast, and it's like, hey, my property managers are not helping me make money here. So while the focus was the tax incentives, now it really is more about making cash flow, increasing the cash flow on those properties. And I think there's definitely an opportunity to do that if we keep it in-house.
Every time I work with a new person coming, like I work a lot of out-of-state clients, and every time I was like, oh, what property manager should I use? I'm like, okay, well, here's the property managers. I'm like, here's 3 or 4 options. And specifically, if they have more than one property, I'm like, I might recommend that you put one with one company and another one with another company
and test them.
And then also, a property manager is only as good as the physical manager that's in place, because I feel like they change managers every couple of years. So that manager might leave and the new manager completely sucks, or that person's getting worn out and then they suck. But now you're already established with this other company. So it's easy to transfer your properties over if you're already set up.
Yeah.
And I was like, because what's going to happen is the best company you've ever worked with was going to change your manager, and all of a sudden they're going to be the worst.
Yeah.
Or maybe they get better. I don't know.
I mean, and like with anything, nobody's going to care about your shit like you do.
Nobody.
Yeah.
You know, so if you can hold it in house, I mean, yes, there's learning curves and you need to know what you're doing or else you'll lose more money than you're making. But gosh, that learning curve, I'm hoping our sons will really jump in it. And because they are there and they see, oh, the dumpster's overflowing. Like, why is this happening? What can we do? What's the solution for this? Like, they're seeing it in real time.
Yeah.
And will learn the lessons and be really good property managers for their own stuff.
And your third youngest is probably annoyed when some of those things happen at the property he's living in. So he has a vested interest and he's got skin in the game, more or less.
Right.
Yeah. Here's a pro tip. So I agonized over switching a big chunk of my portfolio over to a different property manager. And finally made the decision after, because, you know, to Ted's point, property management is not an easy business to operate. I fully acknowledge that. I recognize it. I appreciate the good ones, but there are so many bad ones out there. And I lived with it because the pain of switching hadn't yet exceeded the pain of existing with what I currently had. And when it finally did, I made the decision to switch after doing a lot of soul searching and checking around. And literally the same week, I switched it. And then I got notified that the management company that I just switched everything over to sold.
So your first one?
No, this wasn't my first, thankfully.
No, but I'm saying back to the original.
No, that would have been terrible. That would have been actually hilarious. No, I like where your mind went there, but no, that's not what happened. But it did switch, and it was to, let's just say, I knew who the new owners were going to be, and I was like, this is a disaster. And then what ended up happening is they bought it back or something like that. So it didn't end up being a disaster, but I really panicked there for a minute because I was just like, I went through so much like agony over deciding to do this.
Work,
and when I finally did it, it's like, oh yeah, hey, good news. Thanks for the business, but we're selling. I was just like, what? Because you're exactly right. It's the people, not the company, that matter with regards to that. I mean, they can have systems, processes, training. That's all important. But if you have somebody that doesn't give a shit about your property or properties, then you're not going to get managed well. Right.
Well, I mean, I think in the end, it just comes down to if every property manager could just have a system for doing drive-bys.
Yes,
and actually walking through units,
right?
Because when you walk through a unit, that's when the tenants actually say what their concerns are, because maybe they're too scared to call, maybe they forget, and some of those damages can be detrimental. Yeah, especially if it's water related, right? And I mean, we're bad about that. We're so busy, we got things going on. There's things we know we have to get done, but we don't get done, right? I have a toilet that runs nonstop. I know it can easily get replaced, but it just always slips my brain. But if you walk those properties, they'll be vocal and say, "Oh yeah, hey, by the way, I have this issue," and that's sometimes all you got to do. And as a property manager, you're an idiot for not walking through this, because that's money for you. Also, they're going to get that business.
So property management companies, I would say arguably, maybe not even arguably, one of the biggest chunks of their revenue sources is going to be maintenance.
Right.
So they make money when stuff breaks, right? That's their biggest margin, because if they're making 6, 7, 8%, maybe more, maybe a little more than that, but not much. It's very thin margins in property management. But they make money when they dispatch a maintenance tech, and they can charge you fuel fees and dispatch fees and blah, blah, all the fees.
And the hourly
rates. And then they jack the hourly rate, which they should, because they're doing a service for whatever. But that is a profit source for them. To your point, I don't understand why they don't do that more often. They could be like, okay, monthly, you need to drive by. At least. I can't tell you how many times that I've driven by properties that I have managed by someone else, where I look and I'm like, the lawn is literally a foot or 2 feet tall. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And then it leads to an uncomfortable phone call, and then you get pissed, and then you're like, am I going to have to live with this for months before, like, let me see if you get your shit together, and then I'll decide if I'm going to fire you or not.
So I think I have an answer for that.
Yeah.
And this is the benefit of having experience in multiple verticals, is that you have to educate your client to why that's important. So in interior design, I have to do that all the time. I have to educate my client why we're spending this much more money on this product or this thing, and how it's going to save you money in the long run. Today's price, looks like, nah, I don't need that. But if a property manager can educate their client to know that me going in 3 times a year is a benefit to you, then maybe they'd be willing to pay for it. But
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Yeah. It comes back to communication. And I think the ones that communicate most are probably one of the most successful, even if they're not great at managing a property. I would rather have somebody, hey, FYI, this is going on. Here's what we're doing to address it.
Yeah.
And even if it costs more, I'd be like, okay, thank you for letting me know, rather than me going like a month later and then all of a sudden I get a bill and they're like, oh yeah, we had to go over there. We had to dispatch a tech and then the tech couldn't figure it out. So we had to call in a third party, and then the third party came in and we charged you a dispatch fee. Like I've seen all of that.
My gosh.
You know what I mean? Like multiple property management companies. So
there's also easy ways to do this. I mean, you don't always need to have all the, have a phone call every time. Create a text message system, and just give me the opportunity to get the information. And if I need more information, I can reach back out.
Right.
Yeah.
Just create something that communicates with the people and let me know what the hell is going on with my property, and don't leave me in the dark.
Yeah.
Systems, processes, communication. Those are the three like backbones of good property managers, I think.
Absolutely.
I definitely want to circle back though. You mentioned that you want to get your kids involved into the property management, but you also said, that Nicholas is coming to our events and wanting to get involved. So you have two of your sons that want to get involved. So what have they done so far, and what are they looking to do, and how are you guiding them and helping them grow?
Right. So they have their own goals, right?
Yeah,
I want them to chase their dreams. And I have a aspiring artist. Our youngest is a fashion designer. So he takes after his mama. But in all that, we got to pay the bills, right? So I think this is a good way to help them have secure income and still chase their dreams. Like, not an either or, but an and. And so again, family dynamics.
Yeah.
We talked earlier about how we're doing some family planning over the weekend when it comes to vision and what the future looks like. So hopefully this works. This is all in my head. Hopefully this translates to reality, but I have seen other people do it and do it well. And again, it's about communication. It's about setting the expectations, and if this, then that, having some real clear terms and repercussions if things don't go well. So, and then being their mom, it's harder.
Yeah.
Right. And so, looking at them as young men, we got to have an interview with Kathy Hughes, who's from Omaha. She owns TV One, and she's turning over her business now to her son. And the board required them to go to family counseling.
Wow.
So we've been doing family counseling now since November, every Wednesday. And it's a matter of aligning our visions and, again, setting expectations, but then having those outlets to be able to voice frustrations and take off the business hat and put on the mom hat and have heart to hearts. I felt disrespected. You just expect me to jump because of this. We're turning one of the units, we're testing out the Airbnb market. It stayed empty for a couple of months. It's like, okay, well, let's turn it into Airbnb and see if we can capture, some of the Warren Buffett, and World Series visitors to Omaha. So it's like, okay, Nick, will you paint the unit? He's like, Mom, I'm trading today. And it's like, okay. So it's like you got to readjust and reset so that we're business partners now. And he was right. I didn't respect his time. Like I'm like in mom hat, but I'm trying to operate in business hat, and that's not fair.
You're like, do your chores.
And all four sons come to this meeting, even though only two of them are involved with the real estate business.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Just to get the kids, at that age to come together, that alone is pretty outstanding.
Yeah. We're really blessed because they enjoy being around each other.
Yes.
So they didn't have to move to Omaha,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all live here?
3 of them do.
Okay.
One's married and still in San Diego.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's the one out there.
Yeah.
That's the outlier. Got it. Well, okay. So we have a segment that we cover in every episode that we call Failing Forward.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can probably tell by the title. We like to talk about something that didn't go according to plan, something you learned along the way. Do you have anything that's happened in life or business in the last few years?
The majority of my working career has been interior design. One of the improvements that we've made, because we do fail forward, right, is expectations and cost management. So it used to be where you say, oh, what do you like? What do you, how do you want to feel in your space? What's your budget? Okay. Here's what we recommend. Well, when the final bill comes due and it's $10,000 more, Nobody likes to have that conversation.
Yeah.
I'm conflict avoidance. But in business, you can be, you got to face it head on. And I don't like having those conversations. So we got really, really good. So that was the thing. Having money due at the end of the project that was unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
So we got really good at anticipating cost, communicating along the way. Once everything's ordered, we know when it's coming in, we know how much it's going to cost. We have another meeting and we say, okay, this is where we are. And if anything changes, if we can't fix it internally, we'll let the client know immediately. This is our new plan. So learning how to communicate with people, because it never goes the way you anticipate.
You're never like, hey, good news.
Right.
We saved you 20%.
Right,
Like it's never that way.
So my husband's, military, right? He's like, plan A never effing happens.
Yeah.
Never.
What's the immortal Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Punched in the face.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's never going to happen. This is our plan. This is our process. And this is how we manage risk. But when it comes down to it, I'm going to let you know where we are, and we're going to devise a new plan. Right. So I'm bringing that over into real estate, hopefully, to take consideration of all the costs. What are all the costs? Like the Bible says, know the cost before you start, right? What are all the costs? And then have a contingency. So even in going into construction and seeing it happen over the last 15 years, the contingency, right? That little bucket of money, because there's always something that's inevitable that's going to happen that's unexpected.
I like that. So I think this all comes back to communication, right? And I think communication is a solver of so many problems out there. You can almost lay it over like a blanket. Yeah. And if you just communicate and over communicate on like, hey, FYI, the end of this is going to be a little rough, and here's why. And then you explain all the decisions that were made, the reasons you ended up where you are. Yeah. But if you just wait until if you're like, I'm just going to give them the invoice. Yeah. And then there's sticker shock, they react, they talk to their spouse, and then you have no communication with them until the point they solidify and say, she's the enemy now. Right.
And I tell them up front, this is another layer we've added into our process. We have an onboarding meeting and we review the contract and review the 20 rules, the 20 things you should know.
Here are the bylaws.
Yeah. Natural materials are never like the sample. Right. I can't. This is
that makes sense.
Sample, but this marble slab is going to have some variations than what we're seeing in this tiny little 4x4. Right. So we have all these 20 things, and what I'll say is I'm going to bring this up again when we run into this problem, that we had this conversation and you understood all these things. So I let them know in advance.
And they're probably like, oh, yeah, totally get it. That
they're
makes
like,
sense.
Oh, no big deal.
Yeah.
Until it happens.
Until that happens. And you're like, remember when we talked
about this.
But I would say that probably goes a long way though, right?
It
because
does.
if you're like,
shit.
Yeah, you're my bad.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So over communicating, like navigating problems before they become reality, and guiding people through the process with constant communication. Does sound like a lot of work, but I would say probably the extra work you put into that probably separates you from 90% of the other people that are in the same business that don't do that, and then they just opt for I'm going to send you a PDF with the amount you owe.
Dissatisfied clients.
Yeah,
for something that was not really their fault because of the industry we're in, right? I mean, I don't know about other industries, but real estate, interior design, construction, nothing is ever the way it started out.
Well, I do want to ask you one more thing before we dive into our last section. And that is, what does life look like for you now? Maybe you could talk about your portfolio size or like what you're doing in your business. You referenced getting more involved in construction as opposed to just design. Where are you now? Where are you going? And then we can tie it all back together.
Right. So my interior design firm has been open over 20 years. I have a great team, a real solid core team, client concierge, full-time designer, bookkeeper, CAD designer.
Based here or San Diego?
So my full-time designer is based here.
Okay.
I have a couple of overseas people in San Diego.
Okay. And so are you doing stuff just in this area or all around the country?
Most of our work is still in San Diego. We were
Really?
there 12 years. And so those real estate caravans really paid off.
Wow.
Hadn't been there for 5 years, and I still get calls from that group.
And they don't,
that is so awesome.
They don't even need to know that so you're flying back a lot.
I am.
Yeah.
I was there the last 3 months. Yeah.
So,
But it's great because I get to see my son in his
Yeah,
life.
you get a hey.
It's a
By the
bonus.
way,
it's
a business write-off.
win-win.
You're like, hey, babe, sorry, I got to go back to San Diego for 3 months.
Especially in January, February.
Yeah. I see how this all came together.
It all works for the good.
Yeah.
So yes. So my interior design firm is very stable. It's been a little slow, over the last year. We've had to cut back and be more careful with our expenses and our marketing, but it's very stable. Like core team, I'm really proud of what I've built there. But I can get bored,
Yeah.
You get stagnant, I'm a forever learner. And so that's why in this slow time, I'm like, okay, now's the time to do construction. And so, like I said, having a general contractor in San Diego that I just keep him busy. I keep him employed. I wouldn't necessarily do construction in San Diego with a GC license, but knowing that business and having those qualifications and understanding more of ground up build is something I want to employ here.
Okay, now, let's say that I have no intention of doing any more of these, but let's say I'm gonna bring on another Airbnb.
Okay.
and I
Uh-oh, are you telling me I made the wrong choice?
No, he's making the wrong choice with this.
It's been really lucrative the last couple months, so I can't have no. I mean, it's paying the bills right now. But long story short, let's assume I'm bringing that one on. I want to reach out to you to either help me out with design or design and fill. Do you offer both those services? And how do I assume what type of prices I should spend on getting this done?
So that's not our jam.
Okay.
I actually hired someone else.
Okay.
So this is a lesson. Know your strengths.
Yep.
Like I'm a luxury designer. I remodel kitchens and baths. Like our budgets are $250 or more. So Airbnb is a different story. It's a different audience. It's a different price point. Those aren't my resources that I'm familiar with. So I wouldn't be quick at making those decisions. Time is money. So my rate is not appropriate for
Ted,
Airbnb.
you can't afford her. Is the message here? This is a nicely,
totally fair, but
nicely delivered message. You can't afford her, bro.
Because I assume there would be a lot of listeners that
right. No, I totally get it.
Area, so.
If I were to start a new business after construction, after real estate, no,
no, I totally get it. Okay, so here's a question I don't think I've ever asked any guest that's been on here, but you have sons that are 29, 27, 26, and 23. There's a lot of 20-year-olds in there. Yeah. What was it like becoming an empty nester for the first time, obviously?
Oh, my gosh.
What was it? Was it weird? Was it relief? Was it a mix of guilt and relief?
This is weird to say, but...
Cheers.
I enjoy walking around my house naked.
Yeah.
Okay, I should rephrase that.
No,
radio edit.
No, that's staying in.
I understand. I get that. Though.
We're gonna get a lot more listeners and viewers. If
real talk, like freedom.
Yeah.
Right, that's what that translates to.
Yeah,
just freedom. Like if we want to sleep until 2, like we can. Like we don't have to get up and entertain anyone. Or figure out what someone's doing or when they're coming home. Like it really was good. It was really, really solid to have that time back with my husband.
Yeah.
To have my boyfriend back. He calls me his girlfriend back, So because when we got married, we had a son a year and a half later.
Yeah, so you didn't have really much of a honeymoon period.
We had a long distance relationship for 3.5 years. And then his brother moved in 6 months after we were married, coming from South Carolina. And then we had a baby. So we got to really enjoy our time alone again.
Wow.
That's I get that.
Yeah, and I've got 5 years, 5 years until I'm an empty nester. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I can look forward to my wife walking around naked and want to, spend time with me.
Yeah. Or she could not
be awesome.
She could not look forward to seeing no one run around naked.
No, I didn't. No part of this conversation involved me being naked. Let's be clear, okay? Like this is not something anybody wants to see.
I would be the naked person in the house. My wife would.
Yeah,
not
you would, and nobody wants to see that either.
And I don't care. I'll still run around my boxers around the house.
Okay, enough about that. All right. Well, this is great. Thank you for sharing that part of it because I'm a vested interest in that. But we do have one last segment of our podcast that we call the OT with Owen and Ted, which is
It's like overtime OT. Love that, huh?
hard-hitting questions for you
Let me
here.
get my tissues out.
Yeah, you had them earlier. She did a little prep work here, and we have a makeup person on staff here to take care of Ted. But where are our questions, Ted?
They're right here. You moved them, you dork.
It says failing forward. Okay,
and
all right.
The sheet has not changed.
I'm sorry about Ted. Here's the question. The first one for you is, all right, this is, I think, going to be a pretty easy question for you to answer. But if you're going to write a book, what's the title and topic that you're going to cover?
It would be...
Wait, do you have a book, though?
I've contributed to some books.
Okay. Does that make you feel weird that you didn't actually write the whole book? You were just a contributor?
No, it was a great experience and then to read the other stories. Like everyone has a story and they're all important and valuable to learn from each other.
What's the name of those books in case anybody wants to look them up?
A Motherhood and Business. Oh my gosh, they're years ago. I don't remember.
Read so many books that you know her name.
I have so many other things.
First
we can put it in the show notes.
First author we've ever had on that didn't even know her book name.
I'll send you them by email. They weren't my baby.
Okay, all right. Your baby is coming.
My baby,
and hopefully not an actual baby because you enjoy, like we talked about, walking around the wild.
But the Motherhood and Business is the one that I remember because I would write a full book myself that would talk about motherhood and business, and I would likely title it Ambition.
Ooh.
A Life of No Regrets. And it would be how to communicate to children all the effort that we as parents put in. Yes, we want to care for them, nurture them, open up possibilities for them. But the weight of feeding all these mouths
especially boy mouths.
Oh my gosh. 4 gallons of milk a week, and the responsibility. Young adults these days are different. Like, we didn't complain about our parents. We would get slapped in the face if we had a complaint. Did you eat today?
Yeah.
I love you.
Where my kids at?
So to be in this new world of social media and thoughts of young adults, counseling has been great, and to hear from them that when I decided to run with my business after Arnett's practice was established, long story, but he had to invest a lot of time into building his peds practice in the Navy because the Navy doesn't serve peds, so he had to get.
Yeah, when you brought that up earlier, you said peds. I was going to dig into that. I was like, that seems like that might be a long story.
He had to grow that.
Yeah.
But he concentrated on his career first, and I'm an ambitious woman, and then felt like I had this runway to grow my business. And now 10 years later, 15 years later, hearing from our sons that they felt the shift, but we didn't communicate well enough to let them know that this was the deal that mom and dad had. This is the goal. This is how you'll benefit from it. These are the sacrifices that we're all making right now, so they can feel good about it and so that they can know that it wasn't just my own personal desires to their detriment. This was for all of us. And so to be able to share that in a book and share the lessons of when you have sons, they hear you, but you need to touch them. You need to hold their shoulders and say, son, I need you to stop, because if you don't, you'll kill your brother. Like, I need you to listen to me. They don't listen with their ears, but when you touch them, they'll feel it. So it's things like that I've learned over the last, we've been married 30 years and our 29-year-old, like, I'd write that in a book.
If you write that, I will read that, because I think everybody listening needs that right now that has kids.
Okay. This seems like a risky question to ask you, but if you're going to be a mom, right, and you're talking to your husband, or maybe you're not, but you're contemplating having another child, do you think about the self-sacrifice? Does it ever enter the like thought process where you're like, I am literally going to have to put my life on pause for 18 years before I pursue the goals and dreams and things I have? Because, and not to stereotype, but like, let's face it, like, guys are a lot more free reign on pursuing careers than women are, because you're much better about raising kids. You have maternal things that you can do that we just aren't able to do. And a lot of times we're just like, see work, do work, whatever. And you handle all the rest of the stuff. And I'm not saying that's how your dynamic is with your husband, but what do you think about when you're like, should we have another kid? Should we not? Are you ever like, I have stuff I want to do and goals I want to achieve. And there's like, this is 18 years you're asking me to give up. And I'm not asking this question lightly, because this is a heavy topic.
Yeah.
But,
you absolutely should. But do we? We were young. We were,
I think the current
freshmen in college sweethearts. Like, we were essentially high school sweethearts.
Okay.
And we didn't know enough.
Yeah, you're like, I'm hot, you're hot. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. And so we talked about having 4 kids, but we made some assumptions. Just like in real estate, you make assumptions, based on the knowledge that you have. The incorrect assumption that we made was community, was family, was that the Navy was going to take us away from our families. And while I watched my grandmother have 4 children, and the reason we decided on 4 was because it was so fun to travel with our cousins on family vacations in the summer and caravan,
that was the logic.
It was like, your cousins are your first best friends.
Yeah. You're like, oh, we have so many cousins, blah, blah. And then you're like, oh my God, I have 4
kids.
I have just bought 4 gallons of milk. Where did it all go?
Yeah. So it was just about, this is the picturesque lifestyle that I want as well. This is, this what's worked for my grandmother. But what I didn't have that my grandmother had was community. Like, they all lived within miles of each other.
Yeah.
But I do remember that my aunt would pick me up from school, and that I'd stay at my grandparents' house, and they'd come to my football games. My mom wasn't always there, but I always felt loved. Right. In the military, we didn't have that. And once I realized, then I built it, but still there were gaps. And there were times when our children, and we made that deal, that it would be a transition, but there were times that our children felt unheld, that there was time where mom wasn't there or dad. So this is the deal that we did make. And we explained this to them in therapy, that if mom was there, because mom and dad are a unit, we're both there. If dad was there, we're both there. Like, there's never time when someone in mom or dad's not there, or someone we know loves you, that loves them. There was always a time that someone loved you.
You're like a House of Representatives, basically.
I'm going to use that. Yes.
I'm going to use what you just said with my kids. Because my was like,
I've never heard anyone ever say that. Say what you just said. That's really good.
And so that was the deal that we had. And so we didn't communicate that to them when they were younger, though. And I feel like they would have understood it, And if they didn't understand it in the moment, they could take it into future years and say, so that it would alleviate some of this tension that's there, because they felt like they were dropped when my business took off.
That might be one of the best golden nuggets that we have ever had on this episode. Seriously, like that is really, really good.
I'm gonna use that with my kids this week, next week at least, when it comes to sports.
No, kudos for you. And also, by the way, I do want to point out, like, I don't know that let's also be honest here. Not many people are just going to like tell people they went to family therapy, because there's a stigma, but I applaud that wholeheartedly. And I think it's probably, you talk about things you would never talk about in the house. And that in and of itself is a huge win, because you can get stuff out in the open, and everybody knows you're going to be at least on the same page enough to where where you're all operating. Like, here's my point of view. If it doesn't jive exactly with where you are, then we can work it out. And now at least I know your problem, and my problem, and we can, fit together. Like, that's so good, man.
We care enough to take the time out. Right?
Yeah.
Time is valuable.
Yeah.
So if I'm here, that is an indicator to you that I'm all in with this.
I love that.
Especially young adults, that. Right?
Yeah. And I feel like the current generation right now doesn't think like that, because, if you're looking at somebody that's like 25 or younger, they're looking at like one kid maybe when they get established. And so we're seeing more and more the birth rates are dropping.
Right.
And you're not seeing these big families. Yeah. When I met my wife, I was 1, maybe 2. and she was 3, maybe 4, but we ended up with 2. And
Never split the difference, Ted.
You're just not seeing that. Like my dad was one of 12.
Oh wow.
So huge families.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just kind of seeing this decrease happening over and over again.
It's a lot of effing work.
Yeah.
That is true.
I had new neighbors move in last year, and they had 9 girls. That's all they have, 9 girls, and I'm looking at them like, holy crap, man.
The thing is,
but they are well behaved kids. I'll give them props.
Like, it's one of those things where I think if you have your kids in your circumference, right, when they are in their 20s, and they still want to be around you, and they still gravitate toward you, and they still live in your same town. I mean, I don't know about the guy that's in San Diego, but the other 3 sound like really solid kids. No, I'm kidding. But no, I just think that speaks volumes for what a job you did in parenting, and no shade against kids that move away. And I think that's actually a great thing for people to experience different environments and points of view and diversity and all that. But man, great stuff.
Thank you.
This is really good.
Okay, believe it or not, we're still in the OT here. So the next question is, it's your podcast. Wait, you had a podcast for a while, right?
I did.
Is it? It's
you
still
guys are awesome.
Is it out there?
It is. It still remains.
What's it called?
Creating Sacred Spaces with Nikki Klugh.
Okay, well, check it out. Listen.
Yeah.
Get a little insight into your brain.
Yeah.
But okay, so it's your podcast. Mm-hmm. You can interview anyone in the world today. That's live. Mm-hmm. Who is it? Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be business, real estate. Just if the person you look up to the most in the world, you can interview them, or ask one question,
or they might be controversial though. You don't have to look up.
We don't care who it is.
Wow. Okay, because you said the word controversial, that just instantly pops in my head. Kanye West.
Kanye West. That would be a great one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, totally. You have no idea what's coming out of that guy's mouth. I was going to say
like 10 other people, but
yeah,
Kanye West. Yeah,
I love that answer. That dude,
he is a musical genius, regardless of what you think about him. I think that his mental health condition opens a world that we don't have access to.
How so?
We assume that he may be bipolar. Something's going on though, right?
Yeah. I mean, I assume that. I don't know if everybody does, but like something clearly is
something is going on.
Yeah.
But it's a level of creativity that, the average person can't understand. If you can harness that, if you can provide value to others, if you can enrich others with your music, fashion, whatever it is that he's contributing to, then it adds a texture to life that makes life worth living. It's not just about work and raising kids and making money. It's about allowing your spirit and your mind to flow into other arenas that you yourself can't create in, but you can see the product of someone else's creativity.
The hard part about that is a lot of times, we gravitate as, especially Americans, but I mean worldwide with the prevalence of social media and so forth. But people that are really gifted in the arts are typically who we admire and want to, be like and all those things. So like movie stars and, big singers and performers and all that. But they're literally the most misunderstood kids and probably ostracized and picked on and bullied.
Yeah.
And their voice literally or figuratively comes out through their art that they end up choosing. And it's such a sad state of affairs that, and this is getting a little bit deep, but like, it's really unfortunate that, you can get kind of a mishmash of somebody's got a decent personality. They're an average person and they can survive in society. They have decent social skills and they're just living an average life. But the people that really have a chance to, like, if you water and take care of and like, do all the stuff that needs to make them grow up and be successful, they may have wildly different childhoods than you did, wildly different upbringings. And then they have one facet of their life that they're like so far beyond other people that they are going to rise to the top unless they get smothered by bullies and society and everything else. And like, that's such an unfortunate thing about our society. And I don't see an end to it, but like, it sucks because like, I'm good, not great at a lot of different things, but I'm just thinking of people I know that like excel and they have a deficiency somewhere else and they get picked on for the deficiency and not recognized for the talent.
Right.
And I wish that was different. I wish there was more of a balance with that and let them grow. You know what I mean?
Funny thing is, it was just yesterday I was talking to somebody and they did a loan for somebody that bought Kanye West's house.
Oh, wow.
What? No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that was an interesting conversation.
All right. By the way, whenever we go long in an episode, it's because we're having an awesome time and you're giving really great content. So next question for you. All right. Sad times. Nikki Klugh household is congregating for your funeral.
Oh.
Super sad. Who do you picture giving your eulogy, and what do you think the message is going to be?
So I'm going to go along in that vein of motherhood and say that it's my son, Nicholas, who named after me, but ironically is very much like me.
Take that, kid that lives in San Diego.
Thank you.
Just kidding.
Thank you for making me laugh so the tears don't come so quickly. But I think he would just say he would one day know how deep my love is for him and all of our sons, and that as much as I love the things that I love to do, and I oh my gosh, how blessed I am to be able to do a career that I actually enjoy, that I love doing. I think they see that and they're like, oh, mom's pulled away from us because she loves doing this. But it still is all about them. It really is. And so, choosing that career, choosing to have my own business was so that I could adjust and arrange my schedule to work around all the things they had going on. And they just don't see that in this moment, but I think one day he will understand it and he will recognize it. I know it happened for me with my mom when I had kids, so I imagine it'll happen for him then. But he'll just know how much I loved him. He'll understand the impact that we've been able to make as a family, but that I've been able to make as a person.
I'm sure somebody has said it before, but you never appreciate how much your parents love you until you have your own child, and then you get it.
Yeah.
And then it opens a whole new world
light,
with your parents and the relationship you have with them.
Absolutely.
I think it's just multiple turning points there.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's deep. But I'm going to get really deep now.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
Think about the person that has had the biggest impact on your life. Maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's not, but somebody that was really, really changed your direction. And you can speak directly to them right now. What would you say, and how would you thank them?
Yeah.
And who is it?
Yeah. I give my mom so many props. She knows how much I love her, that she's my muse. But I will have to say, and she knows this, and it's my grandfather. It's who our youngest son is named after. And it's Milton Hunter. And he was an amazing man, just so loving and kind and caring and educated. He valued exposure. So all the things that I got to do as a kid, participate in academic decathlon, be a cheerleader, go to Russia, go to the U.S. Naval Academy. All those things were set up because of his foundation that he provided. If my mom couldn't afford it, he took care of it. I was the grandchild that they raised because my mom was still in college when she had me. So we had the closest relationship in my mind. And yeah, just where you spend your time and your money is where your heart is. And he definitely showed that to me in every single way.
My grandmother was that person too. So I give all the shout out to my mom because she was a single mom, had me when she was 16, immigrant, but it was my grandma that was really the backbone and helped raise. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was deep.
Okay. Last question for you. All right.
It's not like we haven't been doing this for 4 years.
I know. We changed these up, to be fair.
We haven't changed them up in a long time.
We did last week. Shut up, Ted. All right. Nikki, are you looking for anything in your business or life right now where somebody catching this episode might be able to connect the dots?
I'm going to be really transparent. I'm going to let you know that I love working in San Diego, but I really want a solid client base in Omaha.
Okay.
It's so challenging here because it's such a close-knit community, which I love. My next big thing, what I'm really looking forward to is finding the property that is a luxury property that we can design and rehab and sell. I saw this happen in San Diego, California, in La Jolla,
love that area.
in the Cove.
Yeah.
And I saw a $6 million flip happen. And they bought it for $3 million. They invested $1 million and they sold it for $6 million. That's awesome.
That's decent profit margin.
Yeah. And so I know that with my interior design background, with my understanding of construction and my investment in real estate, that's one of my next big moves. And so I'm excited to start exploring opportunities to see who I can partner with to make that happen.
Okay. So anybody catching this, if you have luxury homes that are listed or going to be listed, maybe reach out to Nikki, get some interior design ideas. But also, if you have a home that needs some love, might be a fixer-upper, she has a construction crew, she's obviously a designer, so she might be interested in buying it pre-market. So is that a good contact for you?
You're on point.
Perfect.
Awesome. Nikki, it's an absolute pleasure getting to know you.
So good.
It was great to get to know you at the real estate meetups. It was great I love the fact that you brought your son to the event. That I think that speaks novels to who you are, what you do, and also how you raise your kids. Your story has been absolutely amazing, and I think people that will listen to this will be absolutely impacted by this. But please know that we hope that you come to more of our events and that you spread your knowledge around to everybody that's in our groups.
Yes.
And but with that, Owen Dashner, we see us out.
On behalf of Aiden Bear, Dennis Bertrand, in-house, REIA Radio, and Ted Kosh, I'm Owen Dashner. You've been listening to Nikki Collaboration Over Competition Klugh.
Awesome.
Sign off.
Yeah.
God, radio edit. I really had something there that I was going to ask you that just hit me with what you were saying, and then Ted interrupted.
Sorry, I spoke.
All good.
Yeah, what are you doing, man? This is my podcast. I'm just kidding.